Few things are for sure in this life, but this is. If we live for any substantial amount of time, we will encounter grief due to the loss of a loved one. Not something any of us ever want, and we all handle it differently. This podcast is to feature those who have done purposeful and meaningful things through their grief. These people featured on here are normal folks, just like you and me, who were thrust into a place they never wanted to be in their lives. A painful place. As they moved through their pain, they realized that something worthwhile, something for the greater good, could come out of the unthinkable. I'm sure that none of them would ever consider themselves to be a hero, but when I searched the definition of the word hero, I found this: a person who is admired or idolized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. And that fit. And so it's my privilege to bring you the remarkable stories of these heroes in grief. Hi, everyone. This is Tom, your host for the Heroes in Grief podcast, and the response has been incredible so far, and I want to thank you for that. It's getting out to people, and they're letting us know that it's helping them, and that is what it's all about. I want to make you aware of a way that you can support this podcast without having to spend 1 cent, and that is through affiliate marketing. I've set up affiliate marketing for online shopping. If you do online shopping, then I have links to all the major retailers, most of them anyways, and I can provide them for you so that when you buy online through those links, you'll help support the podcast through the percentages that we get. It doesn't cost you anything more. You just shop like you regularly would on the sites that you love. It's very easy. All you have to do is shop. And that's it. Just let me know the links to the places that you want to shop at, and I will provide the affiliate links so that you can do it. If you want more information on this, you can go to heroesingrief.com. It takes you to the Linktree page where a video explains it in a little more detail. But you can always email me at tom@heroesingrief.com, and I can answer questions for you. But you can support the podcast that way, and it's very easy, very simple, and it doesn't cost you a cent. Isn't that great? Thank you. Now here's today's episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Heroes in Grief podcast. Again, very great to have you with us. Another great guest today. And we're kind of on the holistic kick, I think, right now. I have Jean Gutierrez with us. And she is we're going to get into a few different things. We're going to get into a little bit about Reiki sessions. We're going to get a little into life coaching and the other things that she does. So, Jean, you're in New York, right? Is that New York City?
Well, I'm originally from New York, but I live in Connecticut now.
Connecticut. Great. All right. East Coaster. That's nice.
Yes.
Very good. All right. So, Jean, we always start off with the grief story, if that's all right with you. And why don't you tell us your grief story?
Yes. So my grief journey started in 2014, I would say, when my mother was diagnosed with cancer. So I became her caregiver, hospice, the whole thing. And that was my first really big loss that shook me up. That opened me into questioning, what happens after we die? Where do we go? I was just questioning a lot of things. But life was happening. I was a wife, I was a mother, I was working. Life just kept going. So I really didn't have that time to sit with myself and all my questions. Life just kept going. I had too many people to take care of. And then a few years after that, my father got diagnosed with colon cancer. So it was another blow. And I was like, oh my God, why is God doing this to me? I'm losing both my parents. So again, I was a caregiver, and it was hard. He passed rather quickly after his diagnosis. And after that, the depression started. I couldn't get out of bed. I was just really lost, and I couldn't explain how I got cheated. They were really young, and it was just a painful thing to experience. But again, I had, a job. I had 2 kids. I had a husband that I had to take care of. So life kept going. But shortly after my father passed, just a year later, my husband suddenly was taken away from me. Oh, and, it's still hard to even talk about. I still get choked up, but it shook up my identity. He was gone. I felt like I lost everyone. And we had just moved into a new home. He didn't even sleep in the house. We bought a new home. It was our dream home. He signed the papers, and then he had to leave for a business trip to Arizona, and he never came home. And at the time I wasn't working, and, I was in this house with boxes everywhere and my 2 kids. And I was like, what am I going to do? My identity was gone. I just felt lost. And shortly after that, COVID had hit. Ugh. So now I'm like, okay, not only am I grieving, but I have to grieve this alone, and during COVID, it really forced me to sit with myself. But, at first I was avoiding it. I was starting to drink. I was drinking heavily. I was like, everyone was with COVID. I feel like there was nothing to do. We're all just, no one wants to sit with their pain, right?
Right.
So that's kind of what was happening. And then I started to really question things. Okay, what happens when we die? Where do we go? I can't just hear they went to heaven. They're always with you. It just wasn't enough for me. I was angry. I needed answers. And I was determined like that I was going to figure out all the answers to the universe. So I was watching documentaries. I was reading books. I was meditating. I was doing anything I could to connect to something. And I had this really defining moment. It was almost like where books are written and movies are made. It's this moment, and it was either, am I going to be a victim and kind of continue on with my suffering and drinking and doing these things, or am I going to lean into it and let it transform me? And that's what I chose to do. I chose to lean into it and let it transform me, and it definitely did. I heard a voice during a meditation. I had this spiritual experience that I was just never the same after that. So I started to pursue spirituality very much. And it's really helped me to realize a lot about myself and others, become more self-aware. Yeah. So that's my story, basically, of how I got into things.
Mm-hmm. You don't know this, but I feel the same about the spiritual side now. That's what I have done too. I'm not very good at it yet, but I'm really trying. And meditation was an early helper and gave me a lot of peace initially. And then I got to keep up with it. I don't keep up with it the way that you should, but I did gain a sense of mindfulness, I think, in my general daily life. And that's really helped it immensely. And given me a great deal of peace.
Yes. Well, grief rewires your brain, right? It changes things. You lose memory. Like my sleeping patterns were messed up. It even affects your immune system and brain fog. I don't know if you experienced that, but I experienced that a lot. So, it's really the neuroplasticity, those new connections, and doing meditation, journaling, anything creative. It creates that peacefulness that you're describing, that calmness, and it helps you to restore, what you had before. You're never the same, but it helps.
Yeah. You didn't have time with your parents either to process that grief. There's a theme coming through too in some of the podcasts here of like what happened with you, where you reach a point to where you say, I'm gonna do something about this, or I'm gonna take control of this instead of letting it control me. So that's kind of what led many people into doing the things that they've done, because then you start working on yourself and working that out and everything, and it brings out whatever we are to be in this new us, I guess.
Yes, I love the quote that the universe whispers until it screams. Right. So it's basically, I feel like this whisper was all along, with every loss, it was just like whispering to me, like there's a purpose behind it. And then it eventually screams where I had to face it. I really realized like life wasn't happening to me, because I was in this victim mentality. Like, why is God doing this to me? Why is this happening to me? And then there was this shift of, okay, it's happening for me. But then it's also happening through me. It's happening through you too. Like doing things like this, sharing your experience. It was one of the most helpful things during my journey, was connecting with others that lost someone. That was really the only comfort that I got, was sharing my story with someone that was going through the same thing. Because you feel so alone. Even though everyone goes through loss, when you're in it, you just feel so alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the grief community is really helpful. I'm cautious always, though, to get too much involved with us. It's almost like when you go to a church and you close yourself off to other things.
Yes.
So I like being in the regular world out there too, where people, they're like, wow, what? And see, you and I might realize that people do this all the time with, or a lot of times with their grief. Other people out there who, have their experiences and maybe didn't even do anything with their grief, it's odd to them. And, I could go back to say that our society is not so grief friendly, to always try to realize that and stay in that, because that's the purpose of what I'm doing here, really, to help those people out there, and you too, I'm sure. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And I love that. A lot of people ask me, well, what do you say to people that are really stuck and they're really in that grief and they can't move forward? And I say, I can't really tell them what to do. I can only speak from my experience and what has helped me. And, if it resonates with them, or if it puts a seed into their minds to help them get out of it, I would say just putting that pain into something beautiful. For me, it was putting it into art, putting it into music, putting it into something creative, something beautiful. And, letting go isn't this one-time event type of thing. Like it's a practice, right? You slowly let go, you slowly build the new, or you build around the grief, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is really what I would say to someone that is grieving. I can only share my experience. There's not a one word way answer to get through it.
Yeah. There's, it just occurred to me as you were speaking that, what I'm doing here and everything, and I bring out a lot of people who have done some great things, and yourself included. And I just want to, I guess, say to anybody out there, it doesn't have to be great things. It's just walking through this, and we're all your grief friends and want to help you along the path because of what we've been through. And so it doesn't matter if you come across and have this great grandiose thing that you're going to create or something like that. It doesn't have to be that at all. It just is your survival, really, and finding a peace in that and an understanding of it.
Yes.
I always try to, the same thing, just try to go back and think of the me back then, in the beginning, and being so lost, and just, like you said, your identity is crushed. Your, a big part of you is so gone, and you have to re-identify that. But walking through the grief by doing it, because you put it aside for your parents, and then and I just want to, I'm so sorry for what you've gone through. What was the time period of going through all of those?
Yeah, so 2014, my mom, and then 2018 was my dad, and then 2019 was my husband.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's...
and then COVID, so it was just like, it was a lot.
Yeah.
But,
so, yeah, that's, and
thank you.
man, you are just so lost. And it helps to hear other people's stories, like you said. And so that's what we try to do here, is just bring you along and say, we're just like you. We're not different because we're doing something that's, available to people like it is, but we can help you along in wherever you are, and that's an important point you made too. We're all in our own space in this, and don't be discouraged out there. I guess just wanted to add that little caveat in there.
It's hard, and it's a lot of people. I try to explain, at least with life coaching with emotions. Some people think some emotions are bad and some are good, and they're really all full of wisdom, right? Fear, sadness, grief, and it's really like extracting that lesson behind it. What is the message that the emotion is telling me? Not to judge it, not to judge yourself if you're feeling these emotions just because you think they're bad. They're not. There's wisdom behind it all.
Yeah. Why don't we get into it? The things that you do, and what there's several different things, but let's talk about the life coaching, and what's your process with that with people?
So life coaching, a lot of people ask, what is a spiritual life coach? Like, what is that? Is it therapy? It is not therapy. We don't really sit with your traumas. We do discuss a little bit. We're really more focused on your future and stepping into your power, getting you to your true authentic self so you could reach your full potential. So everyone evolves over time, right? It's just the natural course of life. But if you are not intentional about your growth or your evolution, you just become the byproduct of who is around you and what's around you, right? And you're not this true, authentic expression of who you are. So that's what I help my clients do to, release attachments and change behaviors, shifting their belief systems, and then slowly taking action every day to reach their full potential. And a lot of times it's dealing with how they self-sabotage. Self-sabotaging is, we all do it. We all have different layers of it. And it's basically these coping mechanisms that you created when you were younger to survive a trauma. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a big trauma. It could be small. But these coping mechanisms have become unconscious habits for yourself. And you don't even realize why you're doing them. You could feel stuck. A lot of my clients feel stuck. Like something's holding me back. I don't know what it is. And most likely it stems from you self-sabotaging in some way. So that's something that we really dig deep into with life coaching.
Nice. Yeah, there's Rachel Tenpenny McGonigal I had on last week, and she talked about codependency and how that interfered with so many things. And she saw it as one of the main hindrances that she encountered because people are identifying with somebody else, and especially if those people are the ones that left.
Yes. So it's creating your new identity, right? Because you lost them. You're becoming that byproduct of who's around you, right? So it's just really learning how to tap into your own intuition, trusting your intuition, building that trust in it, and then just living out who you're meant to be.
Yep. And that fits what we were talking about, where it doesn't matter if you're doing something that's public or not, whatever you are becoming and whatever that is, it could be a better, a mother again. It could be, whatever, a dad again, just after something's happened. So a life coach, I've heard it so many times, many people probably have or whatever. What does what's a session like? What is the process? What does it look like? You talked about what happens, but people are probably like, well, it's this kind of weird thing out there. What is it?
Yeah, a lot of people are like, this is a woo-woo thing. So it's really, we start with a discovery call just to make sure that we're a good fit. And, discussing your goals. What is it that, you're having trouble with? Are you feeling stuck? Do you feel like you don't have your dream job or living your authentic self, like whatever it is, we discuss that. And then I go through a bunch of questions to identify what your ways of self-sabotaging are, because we all have multiple. And then once we identify it, a lot of it is just becoming aware of it. A lot of people are not aware. Once they become aware, oh my gosh, hypervigilance is, a way of self-sabotaging, or being a victim, or a people pleaser, avoidance, you avoid things, procrastinate. Like these are all ways that you're self-sabotaging. So once we define what they are for you and the levels for each one, then we dig deep into it. So it's a lot of inner child healing. So that could be done with visualization. We meditate. I'll guide you through how to heal your inner child. Depending, the extent of it, I would either recommend, hypnosis if it got to that, which I've done myself, which was so helpful for my inner child. But a lot of times just, the visualization things that I do with my clients help to break those. And then it's teaching them new rituals, creating new neuroplasticity, right? So the importance of daily rituals is such a big thing for me. Daily rituals, in the morning, it could be just journaling or meditating or going for a walk or having your coffee. That time for yourself that you create is so important, because as you build that, it's a way of showing self-love, right? So you're showing yourself subconsciously that you're worthy of love, you're worthy of this time, right? So then when things in life happen, like let's say you go through a breakup, right? And you have these daily rituals that you can lean on instead of going back to self-destructing habits or behaviors. You can lean on your rituals, which just encourages more self-love, and it helps you to heal quicker and healthy and better. So it's just giving tools to live a better life.
I feel better already.
Do you have daily rituals that you do in the morning?
Like I said, I need to discipline better. I want to, because I know what it means. And when I do, I feel so much better.
Yes.
I really do. And so this is obviously nothing cookie cutter whatsoever about it. It's individualized for each person, which is great. And like you said, it's not this woo-woo stuff out there that everybody thinks of all the time. This is like, what's your personality? What do you like to do? And what kind of tools can we give you in the context of who you are to help yourself, right?
Yes. And a healer, I always say this, a healer isn't someone that heals you. I am not healing you. I'm creating a sacred space for you, a safe space for you, so you can heal yourself. And that's so important to understand, that you're the one in power the whole time, right? I'm just creating this. I'm asking you questions so you become more aware, and you're ultimately healing yourself. It's so powerful.
Yeah, we all have the potential.
Absolutely.
We really do. And I hate seeing those defeated people out there who just think that they can't get out of that rut.
Yeah, it's rough, but it's also, I've had to you want to help everyone, right? But I've also come to accept that everyone's on their own journey and at their own level, and has to learn their own lessons and go through certain things, because, they see things. We all see the same thing, but we don't. We see it through a different lens and perspective. Right?
Yeah.
So really no one's having the same experience or processing it the same way. So, once I've come to that realization, because I did in the beginning, I wanted to help everyone, but now it's just, I realize everyone's on their own journey, and some people don't wake up and some people do. And some people like to sit in that suffering or in the self-sabotaging cycle. And, they wake up in their own time.
Yeah, until they're ready. And it must be heartbreaking to, have to say, this just isn't working. We're going to have to move on.
Yes, absolutely. But when people are reaching out, they're at a point where they want to make that change, right? They want to make a shift.
Yeah, great. Like you said, I feel better.
And meditation doesn't have to be sitting there silent, with your eyes closed. It can be just going for a walk and, looking mindfully at nature, or even just creative things. When you're drawing or when you're playing music, you're almost in this trance, right? It's a meditative state. So all of those things, if you enjoy music, that's your form of meditation. That there's not just a one way to meditate.
I just got to share this because, I don't know, I got to share more about myself, maybe my whole story and what's going on with me lately. But was it yesterday? I can't remember, but I drive a lot during the day. And so I was driving somebody to the airport, and I was tired. I was really tired. And it's almost to the point of like, where you're driving and you're kind of dozing almost. But I was not really with everything at that point. And so I have to know what airline they're on or whatever. And so it's in my mind that it's Delta, and it's just in there. And so I get up to the airport and I ask them, and Delta is not a regular airline that I take people to at Buffalo Airport. It's usually Southwest or American or whatever. Delta is just not a common one at all. And sure enough, they said it's Delta. And I thought it's because my subconscious was open. It was there to receive things. Now, this may seem really weird to people, and I don't want to go
exactly
too far
what happened.
off on the track. But you understand.
I totally understand.
I wanted to share that, and it was like, wow, I experienced it. It was cool. I just knew it was Delta. I just knew it. And, when he said it, I just kind of smiled and shook my head. It was great.
Yes. That's how it is with any question you have. When we sit in stillness and silence, that's when they come through. That's when your intuition, the downloads come. That's how I get mine. That's how I got my first one. I was like, what is happening? I was never used to doing stuff like that. And yeah, after my first really, intense experience with that, I was like, I can't go back to normal life. Like there's more to this. So I dove into it.
I'm convinced. And it was a small one, but it was kind of funny. That's even more why I laughed, because it was like, wow, that's the way I'm going to get my initial experience like that. It's kind of funny.
We all experience it. We just kind of ignore it. We kind of brush it off.
That's true. Yeah. What about you do Reiki sessions? And,
Yes.
This is another thing where I'm learning as we go here. I do have a good friend, and she said that she's gotten into Reiki. And then when my son Jeff passed, we don't see each other all the time, this woman. And she said, oh, I need to have lunch with you. And so sat down, and I hadn't seen her. She was in Florida when Jeff passed. And so a long story short, she goes, I've gotten into Reiki, and I do, sessions with people, and I've started to have just visions and things, that relate to them. And so she told me this story about how she saw Jeff at the scene of him passing, and trying to come back. And, and then my mother came up. My mother has passed, and she came up and grabbed him by the shoulder and, took him back. And so it was comforting, but that's not what Reiki is altogether. I know that. So why don't you explain to people about Reiki and what happens there?
So Reiki is energy work. And like she was saying, she started to see visions and stuff like that. The more I started to tap into Reiki and energy healing, the same thing happens for me. I don't really tell many people, but I'm definitely intuitive during a session. Things will come through. So I'm working on your energy centers. So starting from the root chakra all the way up to the crown. And I also just scan your aura, and we just work through the blockages that you have. And again, it's like I'm not healing you. It's, creating this sacred space where your soul is ready to let go of whatever it is, right? Because when we heal, we can't heal everything all at once, right? We would implode if we felt everything at one time, right? So your body starts to, when it feels safe, each layer will come out when it feels safe, right? So usually there's some kind of release during a session. It could be crying, laughing, whatever it may be during my sessions. But, your body just feels safe in that moment. So sometimes even with like coaching, someone will say, I thought we worked on this. Like I'm triggered. Why? I thought we worked through this emotion, this thing. And I always say, you're not going backwards, right? You're going deeper.
Yeah.
The next layer. Your body's feeling safe now to address this layer of it, whatever it is, right? So I think that's really important for people to understand, because it can be frustrating when you're going through this healing process and letting go and all these things. You get frustrated. You're like, wait, I thought we did this. Like, why am I feeling this way still? Why is this coming back around? And it's just that it's the next layer. So that's what a lot of Reiki is. It's just going through those layers and balancing your chakras. And that's another thing. I also do sound healing. So the sound healing is very powerful. Sound healing is exactly, a sound bath is exactly what it sounds like. You're bathing in these healing frequencies, and the frequencies put you in a deep meditative state, and it allows for healing on a cellular level. And it helps remove any stagnant energy in the body. So like in the chakras, right? And some sensations, you feel sensations during a session. You'll feel tingling in your fingers, your toes. You'll feel like your limbs are really heavy, like you're sinking into the ground. Some people explain that they're floating. Some people see colors, have visions. They bring old memories to the surface, the frequencies. So when that happens, emotions can come to the surface. My first sound bath, what hooked me was when I had mine and I started crying. And I wasn't sad. I just had tears pouring down my face. And I knew that it was the grief that I'm holding on to. It was that next layer getting released. So it was very powerful and cathartic. And I love sharing the gift of sound with people. So I use gongs and, crystal bowls. And I actually just came back from Bali. I was there for by myself for a wellness retreat, and I did a sound bath there. And it was just incredible. It's so powerful. Yeah, I just love sharing the gift of sound.
Yeah. I was a music guy. I am a music guy still. But I was doing music full time before Jeff passed. And so, so many people talk about what music means to them and they love music. And there's a reason for that. And that's something like you just talked about. We are identifying with the vibrations and things that go on. And I don't want people to get too weirded out here. All I ask is that you explore some of these things, look them up and explore about them. That's what I did. That's what you probably did, Jean.
Yes.
And, we talk about chakras, and they are major core parts of you that you can get in touch with to open up to the spiritual world. And we're talking about this healing and things happening from source, God, whatever you want to call it. So a lot of people who pray and things like that, they encounter the same things. So this isn't that foreign when we talk about them. They just may be terms that you're not familiar with, but I want to encourage you to check them out because there's a lot of substantiality to this now. And so, people like us have experienced things with them, and hundreds of millions of people have now. So it's something to look into. So don't think it's so far out there. We're all normal people.
10 years ago or whatever it was, if you would have told me this is what I'd be doing, I would have laughed at you. So it's just what happens. And I just kind of am going with the flow of where life's taking me. So yeah, it's worth checking out. Whatever brings you peace, whatever brings you, just calmness and feeling back in your body, then do it.
Yeah, and I think that too. So you see a lot of this out there now, and people are like, well, people are profiting, whatever. And it's like, you just get in your heart. You want to help people and help them to experience what you experience. And that's really what it comes down to. I certainly do. I want them to explore it and look into it because it's been exciting and it's invigorating when things happen. And it brings so much peace to you. It really does. I'm amazed sometimes at even where I am. And I just wonder, I sit there, what's going on? And I talked about that mindfulness. And I think that learning about meditating and the state that you're trying to accomplish, I picked up a mantra, kind of made one myself and, how I want to be to people and everything. And in the car, sometimes when I'm driving, I just go through that mantra in my head and you get present in the moment and you're the best person you are in that moment because of doing that. And so that's really the best way to live your life, I think. And
yes,
you're focused.
Mantras are powerful. Words are powerful. Words are like spells, it's so important the way we word things, how we say things. It's our words are very powerful. Affirmations, all that.
Yeah, if I get frustrated, or whatever, just tired, whatever, I just sit there. Love, compassion, peace. Those are three of them. I go right off the bat. And just bring that into myself toward the people I'm with and help that way. So that's not too woo woo. Okay.
No, it's not.
It just
honestly
helps.
I'm at a point where I don't, really care or take, anything of what people say. I just know that I'm living authentically to myself and this is what brings me peace. And I know I'm helping people. So to me, it's, everyone has their own path to whatever it is they believe. I think it all just ends up to the same anyway. It's just a different way of getting there.
Yep. I agree. I do agree. And they used to say that's new age stuff or whatever, but whatever. I don't care anymore either. I was a pastor for 15 years and that's the way I believe now. So, So I'm looking on your site here and I want to make sure we cover everything. And you do corporate wellness with the sound healing. So you bring teams together and work with them that way.
So a lot of businesses, they're just the corporate world is very stressed out, and a new thing that is happening, at least over in Connecticut, I don't know how it is over where you are, they're incorporating these wellness weeks for their employees. And, each day is a different thing. So one day could be sound healing or yoga or meditation. And it's during like their lunch hour and they come in and I'll do it for the whole staff. And I think it's just amazing that they're doing this for the employees, for their mental health. And it's a big thing over here. So I don't know if it's like that over there with you guys, if it's starting to...
Yeah, I'm sure they're doing that in places. I mean, I haven't been in the corporate world for a little while, but I'm sure that's happening. You mentioned yoga too. Are you a yoga instructor?
Yes. I am not an instructor, but I love yoga. I do yoga all the time. So yeah, that's definitely part of my rituals that I do in the morning. Journaling, meditation, all that's my
I started some brief yoga and, I've worked out most of my life, but it is strenuous.
It's hard. Yes.
It is. I didn't realize the exercise that it really is.
Yes.
But then it brings...
a lot of trauma is also stored in your body too, right? So your body keeps the score, right? So everything you go through is somewhere stored in your body. So the way you're moving your body and flowing, like that somatic healing, you could have a release that way too during a yoga stretch or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was shocked because I was like, wow, this is quite a workout. I don't know if I can do this every day. But it brings great peace, right? You start getting familiar with everything, and then it becomes more of a flow, right? Is that what happens?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Become more in tune with yourself. It's an act of self-love.
Yeah, okay, I got to work on that one.
Keep with it.
I will.
Awesome. Yeah.
So you said you have a couple kids. 2 kids?
I have 2 kids. Yes. My daughter's in high school. I mean, not in high school. My daughter's just finished her first year in college, which is shocking to me. She's 18. She's doing really well. Honestly, it was really rough for them, obviously with all the losses. And that was another thing for me, like when I was going through everything, I was like, I have to keep it together for my kids. And my son, he's now 13, but he was 8 at the time. It was hard. It was really hard to keep it together when you're falling apart, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. So that's just what moms do and dads do as parents, but they're doing amazing. I'm so proud of them. Yeah, we keep on going. I feel like, putting that pain into purpose and to music, to art, anything beautiful. There's no better way to honor somebody. I feel like he would be proud, and I feel like they would all be proud. So
I am sure they are. I find the same thing. I know you believe this way, but I do the same thing. I did it last week, I think, too, is that I go into the past tense instead of present because they're still present with us. We know that.
Yes,
so it's
yes.
It's awesome. We're stuck in our societal bents, I guess, that have been put on us for so long. Mm-hmm. But so anything else that we didn't cover that?
Well, I am working on a book right now. So I just want to throw that out there. It's basically, it's called The Woke Widow, and it will hopefully be out by the end of this year. It's basically describing my whole grief journey and my spiritual awakening and just all the lessons and things that I've experienced a little more in depth. If you're into the woo-woo stuff, a little more in depth of what happened to me when I had that moment during my meditation, because there's a lot more to it that I don't really describe on here because people think I'm nuts, but it'll be in my book. Just how I, have put that pain into purpose. So that'll be out by the end of the year. You can actually sign up for like the pre-register with my link in my bio on my Instagram. And I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely. We'll have that in the show notes,
Okay.
The links for everything. And when the book comes out, make sure you let me know, because then I'll get it up on the store that I have for all the podcasts.
Awesome.
Actually.
Oh, awesome.
So we'll get that on
I appreciate that.
Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing it or reading it. I listen to audiobooks, so I don't know which way I'll have to do it, but that's great. The Woke Widow. Now, in today's culture, that's a little
I know
stirring the sauce.
I know. It is not political. It's spiritual.
It means you woke up, right?
Yes. From waking up to like not being in this matrix, basically, of, opening up to that spiritual realm.
Excellent. Yeah, that's good to hear. I didn't mean it that way, but it is.
No, I think that all the time. I'm like, oh, geez, of course they would, use this word woke as now political takes on
Well,
it.
that's a wild marketing tool right there.
Yeah.
I wonder if she played on this. And it's,
no, it was totally not. It just started with a W, so I went with widow.
Great. I ask people a lot, as you've gone on this grief journey and now that you've overcome some things in it, we all kind of notice things sometimes that kind of stick out that are not readily addressed or something, these little nuggets, I call them, that come out and we kind of resonate with them personally for some reason. Do you have anything like that just sticks with you?
As far as like overcoming it or just...
Yeah, for instance, I'll say, people like to equate love and grief, but love is an expression of your grief or grief is an expression of your love, but they're not equated because if you can lessen your grief and lose some grief, but you don't lose the love. But people who identify with, say that they're equal, then they're worried about losing some of the grief because they feel like they're losing that person.
Yeah, I would just say like something that I really hold on to is that love, that energy just doesn't go away. It just changes, right? It just changes form. And it's there if you look for it. So... whether it's signs that you see or just seeing them in nature or music or a memory that comes up for you, like it's always still there. The energy can't be destroyed, right?
Right. We're never not connected to them.
Exactly. We're really not. They're there in the next life. I believe in, more lives and, you're connected in that way. And I believe they're waiting on the other side. I believe that they're there, guiding us, protecting us. And there's so much more than what we can see. And that proves with, how you were describing music. We can't see it. We could feel it, right? So we have to realize that everything's not what we can see. There's so much more beyond that. So.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Jean Gutierrez. This has been exciting. Jean and I had a hard time getting this together. It's been about 2 months, I think, of back and forth. And so I thank you for your patience in getting, coming along to do this. It's been better than I expected. That's for sure.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, this was fun. I'm glad we made it happen.
Thank you, Jean Gutierrez. The Woke Widow is the book that's going to be coming out, and we'll make sure and have that. I'll let everybody know, of course, on all the sites and everything. Thank you so much again, and we'll be talking soon, Jean. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes in Grief podcast. If you'd like access to any of the links that we discussed in today's show, you can find them in the show notes. There's also a link there to support the podcast if you care to. And there is an email link for me there. I'd love to hear from you and your ideas about the show or what you thought about the show. You really can help out this podcast to get to more people if you subscribe, rate, or review it in whichever way your platform provides. Each week, Heroes in Grief is released on Sunday, so look for new episodes there. Thank you again for listening to Heroes in Grief.